without any further ado, Mr. Gedale Fenster.
I want to thank everybody for the tremendous support. This class is Le'uni Shmat Yerachmiel Daniel Ben Gedalia. Also thankful for my wife for allowing me to come here. We're going to talk about pretty much how to optimize our relationships. The first thing we got to do is wherever we are at, it's extremely important to be grateful for. That means if you're single or if you're married and struggling, either way, you have to accept where you're at. Because a lot of problems in our life is, I can't believe I'm still single. I can't believe I'm married and this is the way it's going to be like this. It's extremely important that problems bring you closer to God. So if you're looking at your problem, everybody's got some kind of problems. We all have some kind of issue in our life that is affecting us. So if God is choosing you as right now to be single, and that is your main problem, if that is bringing you closer to God, it's not really a problem. It's not a problem. It's just a journey. So the worst thing, we don't get miracles if we are in a victim mindset. So if you guys listen to my classes, tomorrow night also I'm speaking in Park East, we don't want to be in a victim mindset. In a victim mindset, nothing happens. We want to be in a co-creator mindset. So sometimes we feel, hey, I've done everything. I've gone dating. I've tried. I prayed. And I'm still not meeting the one, or I'm still not attracting. That's the time to chill out and say thank you. Because that journey itself is part of your tikkun process. So some things don't make sense, but just accept where you're at. Not only do we accept them, but we also have to be grateful for them. So instead of crying to God, give me a soulmate, give me a soulmate, fix my marriage, give me a shidduch, spend 10 minutes saying, thank you for not finding the one right now. Thank you right now that I'm not married. Because this is exactly what you wanted, this is exactly what has to happen, and this is part of my growth cycle. So we need to think outside the box. We're falling into the same trap as something's wrong with me. I can't believe I'm not married yet. Time is ticking. That doesn't work in heaven. How you work in heaven is you accept where you're at right now, you're grateful for where you are right now, and then heaven does the rest. So remember that. Tonight, tomorrow, spend 10 minutes thanking God for not being single, for not being married. Anyway, the married people want to be single and the single people want to be married anyway. So at the end of the day, it works that way anyway. So that's the first thing you need to think about, because as we're going to go into Rosh Hashanah in a couple weeks, part of the Rosh Hashanah class is crowning the king. We can't crown the king if we're constantly a lack, with the permission of the rabbi always. It's extremely important that any single time we are in a state of trouble in our lives, it comes down to 4 states. According to the Baal Sulam, I'll review it with you. We are all born with a desire to receive. All of us. We all want to receive. Ultimately, marriage and challenges in relationship are going to force you from becoming a receiver to becoming a giver. We know that as long as we are in a receiving state constantly, specifically for guys, a lot of the work is transforming from receivers to givers. I'm going to be honest with you. According to Reb Nachman, 75% of the work is on the guys. 75% of marriage and fixing things is due to the guys working on themselves. If the Zohar tells us something very simple. He tells us either we are shining the light into her or we're shining the light away from her. Pretty much. That means if you are able to be careful with the Yesod, this is what this book is about, this will allow you to attract your wife. And where do we know this? We know this from Avraham and Eliezer. If she should follow you, that means there's a question whether or not she follows you is dependent upon the concept of Yesod. This is why we speak about the 40-day challenges and etc. You can't have your cake and eat it too. That means you can't have this girl and saying, you know what? When you find me the right girl, I'll get rid of this girl. That doesn't work like that in heaven. We have to really, really be committed. So it's understanding the roles that we have to give. How do we maximize these roles? Reb Nachman speaks about, and Kabbalah speaks about the sun and the moon. There's a sun aspect as a son. When I'm a son, when males are sons, they are focusing on giving. They are focusing on taking responsibility. When we sign the ketubah, what are we doing? We're saying, I'm going to honor, cherish, and give to my wife. Because you said that, that allows you to bring shefa down. So a lot of times wealth comes through the wife, not through the girlfriend, comes through the wife. And the reason why it comes through the wife is because when you take an active role and you are taking responsibility for your actions, then all of a sudden, God provides for you. So many times you'll see that the guy's connection to marriage and the guy's connection to wealth is very connected. If you stay single, unfortunately, this doesn't allow you to draw shefa from on high. So a lot of our financial problems between you and me could be fixed once we start taking responsibility in our lives. Understanding the concept of the moon. Now, the moon is a feminine aspect. The moon is a receiver. She's rooted in honor. This month that we're dealing with today, this month of Elul, the whole work on Elul is running away from honor, is running away from validation, running away from giving God the honor. That's the primary work today. On Elul is how do we do it for God? How do we get out of our honor and give God honor? So if you think about this practically, for women, they struggle with excessive honor, excessive comparison, excessive validation. Unfortunately, this was rooted in Eve's mistake of I shall rule. So for women really need to create space. They really need to create space, and they also have to focus on not constantly being obsessively in control. When Eve said the words, Ani yimloch, I will control, she wanted to be a competitor to God. That brought a cosmic disaster to the world. As soon as Eve says, I will, why do you think the snake attacked? Why did the snake attack? Why didn't the snake attack Adam? Why should he attack Eve? Because women generally will bring up the problems. Men try to solve them, but our sages tell us that the initiators of arguments, guys, we're all here to win. Don't take any of this personally. But the snake itself, the Yetzer Hara, attacks the woman first. She's the initiator of the disputes. Okay? Don't worry, I'll take care of the guys afterwards. But she is the one that's initiating the disputes. So women sometimes could say, you know what? Yes, there is a problem here, but why do I always have to make a big deal out of everything? It's called let it go. Ever hear that word? No. Let it go. Sometimes the evil inclination wants to destroy marriages, and he goes through the wife. She goes through the wife because, again, the wife is more vulnerable for kavod, for honor, than the guys are. So this is an area where you'll see today, and the numbers are black and white, by the way. 50% of first marriages get divorced. 70% of second marriages are getting divorced. And 72% are women calling the divorce. So this is these numbers are, whoa, what the hell happened? These are big numbers. So we also have to realize, we have to be careful that sometimes we get into fights and these fights could be let go. We don't always want to be, or you're dating somebody and you see something wrong with him. Oh, it's a deal breaker. We're too focused on seeing negativity instead of positivity. And this is where John Gutman, he came out with a study. Shh, don't worry, you're not married yet. Wait. Enjoy the video games for right now until we get married. Again, there's 3 rings. There's the engagement ring, there's the wedding ring, and the suffering. So, I'm just kidding. So we have this aspect that he said, how can he predict whether or not a couple was going to succeed or not? And he said the magic number was 80% to 20%. Were they able to predict? Were they able to see 80% more good in their spouse, or instead of 20%? That means the couples that made it had the ability to see 80% positivity versus seeing 20% negativity versus the opposite. So that's something we have to think about if I'm single. Can I see, first of all, can I see 80% in myself good positive? Can I really go and can I ask myself, can I say I'm 80% positive and 20% negative? Because if you're walking in there with 30% positive and 70% negative, and you think some guy's going to save your life, you couldn't be more wrong than that. When you decide to be happy, nobody can make you sad. When you decide to be unhappy, nobody can make you happy. It's your decision. It's not the guy's decision. It's a decision to be happy or not to be happy. But if we're walking in there with these numbers of, I have 20% happiness, 30% self-esteem, what do you want the guy to do? He's going to save you? It's almost like asking Biden to save our country. It's that ridiculous. It's that ridiculous. It sounds so crazy, isn't it? It's that ridiculous. I hope we're in a Republican place here. Okay, good. It's okay. It's out of the bag. So that's something we need to understand. Can I see? This is where Rabbi Nachman calls it a zamra. Can you find good points in yourself, and can you find good points in others? And that's extremely important, because if I can't see the good in you, that means I'm not seeing the good in me. And that is going to affect dating. That's going to affect excessive pickiness. And that's going to, unfortunately, not allow you to connect to people. We need to understand that. So seeing the good in yourself is seeing the godliness in yourself. Remember, when we see good in ourselves, we see godliness in ourselves. When we don't see good in ourselves, what do? We compare our lives to other people. And when you compare your lives to other people, that's the first way to despair. There's a famous Gemara that says, one who seeks on what his friend has, loses what he has, loses what he seeks, and loses what he could have. So when we're jealous and we don't function with a good eye, not only do we get, but we get it where we lose. So we lose. Forget the law of attraction, the law of deduction. When we don't see people in a good eye, we not only lose, we don't attract anything. We lose what we have. We lose what we have. So seeing people in a positive eye, seeing things in a positive eye, seeing the 80% good in somebody versus the 20% versus only 80% negativity in people. The way you would have to function with that is you have to work on yourself. You have to do the inner work to sit there and say, I can see the good in people. I can see the good in situations. I can see the good in life. Because at the end of the day, we are all pretty much getting hit with the same issues in life. Some of us are breaking through, some of us are breaking down. And the only difference is perspective. So that's extremely, extremely important to understand that. We need to understand also that every single time you go through a relationship, any kind of trauma will cause extra drama. After every single relationship you go through, make peace with it and let it go. The worst thing we could do is bring trauma into new relationships. Trauma causes drama. If a person has a lot of drama, they've been through a lot of trauma. And sometimes people are paying the price for other people's situations. And this is why when you're going through any situation in life, any relationship that didn't go through, you have to say these three, you have to connect to this. I told you, DBT therapy. First, you have to dismiss the messenger. The person who came into your life, the person that did the harm, the person that did it, you have to dismiss them. Because any single time that we are blaming others for our problems, it's a lack of faith. We'll never get through, we'll never get to the next level. We can never say, my ex is why I'm miserable today. We can never say, I'm this way because of my last breakup. That is a lack of faith. Anytime you say it's a business, the jewelry business is down, that's why I'm not making money. That's a lack of faith. Patek watches are going down. I know everybody's in the jewelry business here. The market's down, that's why I'm losing money. That's complete heresy. Heresy. Because you're saying that God's limited. He's limited to the design district or the diamond district. There's no limit to God. So anytime we limit God, we limit him when we blame something. We lose our potential. So the first thing you have to do is you have to dismiss the messenger. Dismiss the situation. Dismiss the person who you think is causing you the harm in your life. After you dismiss the messenger, which could take you a long time to say that person was just a messenger, then you have to believe it's for the best. Then you have to believe that what you're going through is absolutely for the best, and that is part of your rectification. After you believe it's for the best, then you're going to come to thank God. Then you're going to come to thank God. When you go through these 3 steps, DBT, dismiss the messenger, enhance your belief, and thank God, what you've done is you've gone into a higher consciousness. In a higher consciousness is where magic happens. When you see the picture completely different. If you see this situation as, wow, if it wasn't for this situation, I would never be spiritual today. If it was, I don't remember the last person that says, oh, I heard Gedale's classes when they were feeling good. I get everybody from brokenness, everything's broken. Then they come to my classes. Nobody usually, they were so happy they listened to Spotify. Everybody comes through the back door. So we need to understand that. Don't focus on your ex. Don't focus on the person. Don't focus on that. This is all controlled by God, etc. So this is where Elul, Rabbi Nachman tells us in Elul, and he specifically tells us this month that we are going to endure embarrassments. We're going to endure embarrassments because God's testing you when you get embarrassed to see if you want honor or you're going to God's honor. It's a cleansing month this month. This month is cleansing 100%. What is the cleansing practically? The setbacks that we're going through. Setbacks are cleansing. You want to run, and all of a sudden things are not working. It's forcing you to set your setback. You're forced to humble yourself. You're forced to be patient. This is the month because you're preparing, you're getting cleansed, so you don't show up to Rosh Hashanah saying, crown the king, I want to crown myself. So this month is a month where you might have got insulted, and if you're able to keep quiet during the insults, you get the biggest cleansing of this month. You get the biggest cleansing for Rosh Hashanah. So try this month to take these unfortunate, these cleansing, these setbacks the right way. Don't take these setbacks personally. If you take them personally, because what does the word dam mean in Hebrew? Dam means blood. What is the word dom in Hebrew? Quiet. Our sages tell us that when we are quiet, when we get insulted, we slaughter the evil inclination. We slaughter the ego. And guess what happens when you slaughter the ego? Things open up in life. Perspective opens up in life. So we should think about this month, if we're getting embarrassed, if we're getting setbacks, how you take the setback will determine the light that you're going to get on Rosh Hashanah. Sometimes God uses our wives to cleanse us out, if he wants to quickly. And you should say thank you. You should say thank you. In a perfect world. If you understand that they're just a messenger, that's the biggest cleanse. If you're single and girls are rejecting you, that's coming from God. Rejections come from God. They don't come from people. Everybody okay? Do we need to Hatzalah here? Okay. Everybody okay? Everybody just stop talking. Everybody just want to make sure the air is okay. I know these concepts are pretty crazy in a victim mentality world, but these are the concepts that you're going to win. The reason why our classes are successful is because we're not going to tell you what you want to hear. We're going to tell you difficult things that might make you a little nauseous, and who cares? Nausea is good sometimes. So this month is a month of unfortunately running and crashing. Setbacks and running, and because you can't maintain the light. When I'm running and I'm crashing, this will humble me out. This humbles you out. When you're just running, arrogance can get in the way. So this month, God is preparing us to crown the king. So we get ready for the actual king, to actual crown the king. And when we do that through humility, we end up winning. So don't think about this month. Don't let insults, don't let rejections get to you this month. Use this energy as humility. Humility is what's going to get you the crown today. Humility means I'm not so self-centered, etc. Rabbi Nachman tells us something very, very strong. He tells us in lesson 9 that your quality of your relationships financially and your quality of your relationships physically are very connected to prayer. Where in the world does he get this from? Our sages tell us that when the sea splits, it's as hard as making money, as splitting the Red Sea, as it's also as hard as finding a soulmate, as splitting as the Red Sea. Those two things are when those two things are connected, it's telling us what does it mean to split the sea practically today. It means the sea it's split in 12 ways. 12 ways represent 12 different windows. In synagogues, it's 12 tribes. Our quality of prayer could affect our quality of soulmate. You pray like you're in 7-Eleven, you're going to get somebody from 7-Eleven. You spend 2 minutes, you're going to get this person. You just swap of app. The deeper the prayer, the deeper the answer. Today, we're not going too deep. We're in a 3-foot pool right now. Everybody's in the kids' pool right now. They want to deal with real problems in life in a kiddie pool. You got to go deeper. You got to go deeper in prayer. Rabbi Rush would say, a person has an issue, first he has to thank God for not finding the spouse. And then he has to ask God, what's the spiritual rectification I need to fix? What do I need to work on? But your quality of prayer will determine your quality of spouse. If you're attracting a certain level of people, that is your level of prayer. Reb Nachman tells us when we have problems, it's to turn up the prayer. So think about that concept. Many times, guys, and I can't tell you this so many times, I would say 80% of the things that are happening to you are not about the things that are happening to you. 80% of the things that are happening to you are not about the things that are happening to you. That means there's a deeper reason why it's happening to you. We have to get to the deeper reason why it's happening. Just like you don't get yelled at for not picking up the kids. That's not why you got yelled at. It's because of resentment from 2 weeks ago that wasn't let go. Most of the things do not happen to be with what they have to be. Our job is to look inside and see those things. So think about those two things. Think about those two concepts. Think about prayer. How much time are we spending in prayer? Specifically his bodedut. Talking to God. If you are single or married and you don't have his bodedut today, I don't know how you're making it today. How do you know what you want? Where do you think direction is from? The heart. It's all speech. God's giving us these problems to get our attention. That's it. He's giving you the problem. He's giving you the lack so you can come to him in that lack. You can come to God through that lack. And if I saw many people, I said, do me a favor, start doing 30 minutes of his bodedut. Talk to God about your problem. Next thing you know, I can't believe I met somebody. I can't believe this opened for me. And it had nothing, and they weren't dating more. They didn't go on more apps. You know, I never gave the advice when somebody says, I'm having a hard time finding somebody, you should try a different app. It's got to be the app. I don't remember that being ever an answer. Or I never remember the answer being, you should try a better matchmaker. I think it's the matchmaker's issue. I've never said that, or ever heard that advice. It's only, and I can tell you guys, I have experience with thousands of people, all around the world. All around the world, I did the inner work, I let go, I started praying, I started keeping short, whatever I did. Something happened with the individual, and that attracted that opportunity to that person. It's never a situation where the person just randomly had the wrong app and the wrong situation, etc. So back to this masculine-feminine concept. Because right now there's a lot of control, the feminine aspects is different. Men, like we said before, are not taking that responsibility. They're not taking that responsibility. They're not becoming leaders like they should be. There, unfortunately, drug abuse is on a high. They're staying away from responsibility. They're not dealing with women who are challenging them. They'd rather say, well, why do I need to be challenged? I can watch TV all day long. And it doesn't work like that. So men are not taking that responsibility, and they're lacking, Reb Nachman said, they're lacking both self-control and self-confidence. The two things that are going to get you, according to Reb Nachman, is self-control and self-confidence. If you have self-control and self-confidence, those are going to be the things that are going to attract that person or make your marriage better. When we lose self-control and self-confidence, that becomes a disaster. That makes the woman saying, well, I have to step it up. I have to take up the responsibility. And that causes a cosmic disaster. What's an example of a woman who's too much in her masculine role? She's too tense. She's too guarded. She's untrusting. She's skeptical. She's competitive. She's controlling. She's critical. Hyper-independent, unable to receive help or support, always trying to answer to prove her strength, very defensive, easily triggered. That's excessive masculine woman. You don't want to be that. You don't want to be that. So let's say you had a bad relationship and you left with a scar. That's how you're showing up in the new relationship. There's no place to give to you. There's no place to receive. You're too guarded. You're too competitive. You're too on edge. So that kind of behavior today, unfortunately, is causing a very hard to connect to women. And they're picking up too much of the masculine energy. So I understand, yes, you're right, when guys cannot lead, but when you're in that energy, nobody can help you. Nobody can help you. That's the time where you have to surrender. And trust in him, let him lead. Don't be too critical, because you'll kill the guy. Remember, a guy would rather be alone than be disrespected. Period. He'd rather be alone. That means he'd rather say, you know what, I don't need connection as long as I don't get if I'm not getting disrespected. So that's something that is going through a guy's mind. If this person doesn't let go, I have no shot in this. So women today have to back down a little bit. You have to back down. You have to get into your feminine energy. Let the guy give. Open up a space today. Just because he makes one mistake, it doesn't mean he's finished. Criticism and all that. That's where the evil inclination attacks her. Now, why Kabbalistically are women more unhappier than men? Because again, they're dependent. They're the moon. So they have a harder time with joy than men do. And these are facts in Kabbalah. This is not a new movement. These are facts. So this is why it's the job of the guy to give her that encouragement, to give her that support, to give her the light. But you're right. Sometimes the guys don't have it to give. So this causes a big problem in life. We all have to be in the right roles. That's the bottom line. The bottom line is men have to be men, women have to be women. And that would solve a lot of problems. And this is where both of us have to work. For example, what do men want? Loyalty, they want food, encouragement. That's 3 things. What do women want? Loyalty, money, extra relations, love, gifts, passwords, phone access, email addresses, contacts, attention, sun, moon, stars, your time, your health, everything. So that's it. You see the problem? Do you see the problem? 3 versus 30? How do you make somebody happy? Your iPhone password, your cloud password, everything. How do you make somebody happy? How could a guy survive? How can he survive on these things? So you have to back down. You have to back down. And this is one of the reasons why did Adam suffer. The reason why Adam suffered is because he should have led Eve instead of been influenced by Eve. That is the tikkun. That is the tikkun. He should have led her, not been led by her. And that caused the shattering of the vessels and etc. And this is today. And even if we know, think about Paro. What did he do at the end of his, before he struggled? You know what he did? He had the men do women's jobs. And what he did? And he had the women do men's jobs. He switched the roles. We think this is a new thing. This happened back then. So this area of sun and moon, the right roles, especially in today's age, is the most important thing we need to work on. You have to show up and let people lead. Let people give. This control things, whether it's men doing what they need to do. This book is all you need to read. This book is all you need to read. For men, you have nothing else to read but this book. This book is a game changer. This book was donated. And this book will tell you exactly how to make your wife a priority. Because when we don't make our wives priorities, if we don't make our girlfriends priorities, everything else goes down the tube. So this book really tells you how to be a man with self-control, priority, and this has saved so many divorces today. So many divorces this book has saved. And this is exactly the book that needs today. And this is why in Elul, we have an extra energy as men to fix this. There's extra mercy in Elul in order to fix this. So think about that concept. When men are in their right energy, they have self-confidence. They have self-esteem. They want to be providers. They don't walk in there as receivers. They're able to lead, and they're able to command, and they're able to have that respect. They're able to have that confidence. But you can't do that if you're hooking up with girls for fun. You can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that because you're receiving, you're not giving. You can't do that if you're not focused on what you want. You can't have your cake and eat it too. So most of the guys that I speak with, I get them first spiritual cleansings. I don't want you dating until you have a spiritual cleansing. 40 days, 40-day tikkun klali, garden of peace, and then we'll reconsider, because if you're going on dates with feminine energy, God is causing them to reject you. And that's why this is so important in relationships. But this is what's happening behind the scenes. We have to do a better job at these things. Again, you also have, for women, you have to allow the men to be needed. You can't say, well, you don't do nothing. You don't do nothing. You don't do this right. You don't do this right. You don't do this right. If he doesn't feel needed, then what he's going to want to check out. He needs that respect. And women need to feel cherished and made to feel that they're number one priority. But you have to allow the male, give him a compliment, by the way. See, let me explain to you how it works with guys. It's very simple. If you compliment them, they'll go out of their way to do something else nicer for you. If you tell them they're doing nothing good for you, there's no incentive to go do anything for you. Because whatever they do, it's not going to make you happy anyway. So you're actually not getting anything, but misery. But if you compliment them and you say, you really did this good, he's going to say, oh, I know what makes my wife happy, doing something for her. You know what he's going to do tomorrow? He's going to do it again. We're not that complicated. He's going to do it again. And then he's going to do it again. So you guys need to really work on appreciation and compliments and seeing the good instead of seeing the negativity. Because you are rooted in Malchut. And Malchut itself is more like the moon, is more of a receiver that unfortunately, it's connected more to sadness than men. And you have to just understand that. You have to understand that that is how we are rooted. So we have to really, really work on these concepts. And if we work on these concepts, then we will take the responsibility and we will take. Now, what's the reward for peace? When you have peace, you have wealth. You have wealth. Rabbi Rush tells us something incredible. And he says that the original curse was that women would be dependent upon men. That males would burden them. They would have to depend on them. So what was man's curse? Man's curse was that he would have to make his money through hardship and through sorrow, so sweat. Rabbi Rush tells us incredible. He says that if you are nice to your wife and you're nice to your prospective wife and you took away her curse, you didn't make demands on her, what happens? God will take the curse from you making money hard. So measure for measure. You're nice to your wife, you're nice to your spouse, you don't make demands, you don't tell her, you need to cook me 5 steaks every night. These Bukharian meals are the size of, I have no idea what the hell you guys are eating. Try Uber Eats, try a panini from Uber Eats. If you say, you know what, you don't have to cook, 7 tons tonight. Only 1 ton, one dish. If you don't make demands on them, because remember, the curse was that she would be dependent on you. You take away her curse, God will take away your curse. How about that? How about that? I know you guys like money. How about that? Did you ever think of that one? That's why wealth comes through the wife. Through the wife. Not through you. Through her. Because you filled her light. And then because you filled her light, you get that light right back. So you really have to think of your wives as your potential spouse, as your partners in life. This is not something, what can I get out of this person? What am I getting out of this person? No, where are you coming to give? Because ultimately our whole tikkun today, the books are going fast, I see. Good. The whole tikkun today is transforming from receiving to giving. And when we do that, that's how we have a tremendous Rosh Hashanah, and that's how we have great lives and happiness. You also have to understand that it's not going to be smooth. It's always obstacles. So just because I'm trying something and it's not working, it doesn't mean it's not going to work. I'm going to talk to you about one more concept today that it's very important to understand on a male and feminine aspect. Our sages tell us that males represent process. Females represent presence. Males are process, females are presence. Males are generally goal-driven. Go. Get the next goal. Go. Women are more into the presence of the situation. So sometimes men are too into, what's next? Your wife has a problem? Well, how do we fix it? Not listening. Presence means you have to slow down and you have to listen and understand. Not go just, what do you need? Otherwise she could marry a handyman. What does she need you for? So you have to understand that as men, we need more presence. We need more presence. Not just jump from one thing to the other, to the other, to the other. Sit, listen, and be present. Feel, heal, be present. Don't just fix. It's the way we think. This is why we're always going after goals. Divide and conquer. Goals. But sometimes in life, when you miss the presence, you miss the presence because you're too much into the process, you end up losing everything in life. How many times do you see millionaires, I wish I would have spent more time with my family. The guy's on a private jet by himself with no family. Too much process, too much moving. No presence. The process represents a straight line. Now, women are the opposite. They are presence. So what they won't focus on is they're like in a circle. where guys cut to the next, women process in a circle. The problem with that is you could be in the circle your whole life. Sometimes you're too much into the presence of the situation that you can actually get stuck in it. So where men have to stop and listen, women have to move on and let go. Not just sit in can you believe what they said? Can you believe what they said? Can you believe what they said? I can't believe it. Can you believe it? Yes, I believe it. Again, can you believe it? Cut the circle. Cut it. Move on. I can't believe this person said this to me. I can't believe this person said this to me. I can't believe this said this. Circle, circle, circle. People today that suffer from depression, what are they going through? They're going through a circle. They need to cut. They need to make some action. So these two concepts in our lives also. If you're two in the circle, I can't believe how my husband did that to you. She didn't say, cut. Give him the benefit of the doubt. Cut. These two things are very important. Process and presence. Usually our relationships will lack something if there's an imbalance in these two. Where you need to be more present, you need to cut. Move on. God recreates every day. Move on. It's better to be happy than be right. I hate to tell you. Who needs to be happy? Who needs to be right all the time? It's better to be happy than be right. So this is where men have to sit in the circle and listen. Sit in the chair that's a circle and listen. Listen, process, hear them out, understand them, be empathetic. But there's an expiration date on that problem. Every problem should have an expiration date. Give yourself 3 days to be in a circle, and then you need to catch the next move. Then you need masculine energy, which is to cut and go to the next situation. If that doesn't happen, all you're doing is rehashing the circle over and over again. Over and over again. Because it's rooted in honor. But at the end of the day, you want to be in a circle your whole life? No, you want to be out. So we both need these two concepts, process and presence in our lives. We need to know there's times where we have to sit. If we're getting the same problem over and over, then we need to sit in a circle in presence and understand why it's happening. And that's what his bodhidut is, talking to God. You're sitting with the problem, you're discussing the problem with God, you're reviewing it, you're processing it, you're being present, and then you move on. But if we don't do that, we keep on getting the same mistakes over and over again. That means we will get the same repetitive mistakes over and over again until we realize, why am I going through this problem? Why am I going through this problem over and over again? It's because you're not getting the presence. You're not understanding what's happening. And this is areas of my life where I've seen, why am I even back in the same problem again? Why am I again the same problem? It's because I failed to really do the work inside the circle, and I just want to be done. Done. That's it. Next. That's not good either. We all need a balance of these two things: process and presence. I'm gonna take some questions on these situations, B'ezrat Hashem. But the main things is, first, thank God for being exactly where you're at right now. The Baal Sulam tells us there is no better place than the situation you are right now. Even though it's hard to hear that. There's no better place in the situation. What happened in the past is in the past. What you can do now in the future is you can change. That's the first thing you need to work on. Second thing you need to work on tonight is being in the right energy. Being in the right energy. Being either in your masculine energy or being in your feminine energy. And going up to dates with that energy. Showing up to dates with this energy. Not showing up to dates with the opposite energy. This opposite energy is just going to clash. And the third thing is we need to spend time with God. I don't even care what you say. The fact that you took time and you're attempting to realize that only God can help you in His bodhidut, that itself will be the Yeshua in your life. But these three things are musts today. If we're not aware of the roles we're in, if we're not spending time in prayer, and instead of looking for the one, instead of becoming the one, we're looking for the one, this is why the market's it's where it is today. There's a lot of confusion. Nobody knows what to order on the menu because there's 350 things on the menu. You know, it's like the Mexican restaurant has sushi. What are you having sushi on the menu for? Put a taco, put a burrito. So what are you having sushi in the menu? It doesn't belong there. So today, there's too many things on the menu. Go to a good restaurant, 7 things on the menu. That's it. When we have too many things on the menu, we end up getting nothing. We end up having a bad meal because we don't know what we want. It's better to define your choices, etc. There's another thing we're going to discuss. If sometimes you have it's very rare that everybody is going to be on the same level as you are spiritually. Okay? So this is a big question people get. What do you do if you're in a different level? You have to have certain things you commit to, but I'm going to give you a line that it's going to shock you. Your spouse will probably change 100% within 3 to 4 years. So who you're marrying now, who knows what you're going to get in 3 or 4 years? Just like you change, that person will change. So sometimes we're too sure, oh my God, how do I guarantee he's going to be like this? You're not guaranteed anything. God will always keep uncertainty in your life, so you depend upon him. So as much as I want to be certain, he'll change. That person will change. Sometimes positively, sometimes negatively. But I rarely see 2 people on the same level. It's always some kind of balance, so the spiritual person has to do the majority of the work and lifting the person up. Lifting the person saying, I'm better than you because I'm more religious. So just expect the warning signs in the ketubah. Your partner might change, which will probably happen, which is a little crazy to think about. But yes, this is not a lease. This is not a car lease, a 30-year mortgage that you're signing into. That person will change. A lot of it will change based on your actions with God. So when we change our relationship with God, God will change the relationships with people. So B'ezrat Hashem, we should all get healed and we should all have success. Good. Anybody have any questions? Yes.
Can you explain the law of attraction and share how I can harness its power to attract my soulmate with certainty?
Okay, we just gave the examples already. Nothing is certain in life. The only thing that's certain is nothing. That's your answer. It's uncertain. There's no certainty in life. We can do our best by praying, by being in our masculine energy. That means, how do I attract that person? Like I said before, repeat. Being in your masculine energy. If you're a male, doing what you have to do as a male, self-control, self-confidence, and using prayer to attract. Females, they have to get in their feminine energy, and they have to see the good points in people, and not be so controlling and critical. And the rest is prayer. Yes. How did I meet my wife? How did I know she was the one? I actually, when I was 33 years old, I was divorced, and I decided that there's no way I'm going to go back into Miami and start hooking up and doing these things. So I decided to make a decision, I need to get married. So that's the first step. I decided that I wanted to get married. So I had a lot of certainty that this is exactly what I wanted. And then what I did is I threw a Shabbat dinner, and she walked right into my house. That's how I met her. I didn't even have to leave the mezuzah. Not even the mezuzah. The male guy got more distance than I did. So the way I did it is very simple. I said, I'm not going to be physical until I get remarried. Because I knew if I get physical, it's over. Miami, getting physical, it's over. Well, I don't know what island you're going to end up being in. So I said, I made a decision, because this is what I teach. This is what Rabbi Nachman says. If I keep the Brit, I'll attract her. And I'll attract her, and I got married within 60 days. So the formula works. The formula works. Yeah, we're 13 years married, thank God. Beautiful kids. So I was right. 60 days. So again, the formula works, but you have to be all in. You have to be all in. It's not, you can't dance at 2 weddings. You have to be all in. You got to make decisions. You got to make decisions, and you got to say, what do you want, and what do you got to do to get it? And then you get what you want. The problem today is we want to be married and single at the same time. I want to be married, but I don't want to be alone, but I want to have my space. You really have to make a decision. You can have space, but there'll be limited space. Any more questions? Yes.
When you mentioned staying in your masculine and feminine energy to build your relationships, how would you advise staying consistent with that in moments where you want to slip?
Sure.
Right. So this is why prayer is for. That's what prayer is for. We're definitely going to have triggers. Like Reb Nachman said, I've said this many times, that Reb Nachman says, life itself is a war. Life itself is a war. And if you're married, the war is within your family. If you're single, the war is in your head. But you will be in, and he's saying that you have a different nation in your head at the same time. So you see, like when you see a contraction, then that's when you change it. Remember, couples can never go steadily like this. There has to be periods of chaos, and then after the chaos comes a rest. And then chaos and rest. It sounds funny, but that's life. Just like stocks. They go up, they crash, so people can get a good price. They go up again, and then they crash again. This is the story of our lives. So what is the advice, if I'm going to be in a whole circle, is to not live in the problem. To say it's not, I'm not here forever. It's not, the crash is a temporary crash. But every couple is going to have that cycle of good, contraction, good, contraction, good. The reason why that has to happen is because you would never reach a higher good. Your growth would be tapped out. So you have to have the crash in order to recreate the new high. So expect this. Expect the highs and expect the lows. But it doesn't mean that the relationship is broken. It means there could be a problem in the relationship, but not that the relationship is broken. Okay? That's why when you pray, it's not for your spouse, it's for you. Please, God, let me not have resentment in that person. Let me look at the person the same way I saw them in the first day of my wedding. Good. Yes? You had a question? Go ahead. Into the feminine energy. To get out of it. Okay, first you have to let him in. First you got to open the door. That's usually the problem. Sometimes the door's locked. Come in, help me. I want to help you. No, you don't know how to do anything. So that's not helping. So first you need to create the space for him. And that's a whole different case. Then change your routine. Remember, don't make demands. Don't make demands. The Rav Dessler says, when you make a demand, love departs. Don't demand. Instruct. Women have 10 measures of speech. 10 measures of speech came to the world. 9 of them came to women. So the way you say it is a big deal. So for first, you have to let him in. And saying, you know what, I was a little on edge lately. Let him in. Let him in. There's a great book called The Surrendered Wife by Laura Doyle. That's a book that I recommend. It's called Bittul. Surrender. Not surrendering now. We're not going to surrender to a guy who's a drug addict, who's abusive. This is a guy who's a hardworking guy. He's trying his best, but he's not meeting your quota. We're not talking about people that are abusive and people that are addicted. That's not the case where you surrender. That's the case where you put a boundary and say, hey, maybe this is not for me. But a person who's working hard and he's not cheating on you and he's not unfaithful. As long as those 3 conditions are there, you have to throw the dog a bone. Automatically, when they see that you're in a place of receiving, they'll want to come give. Automatically, when the customer wants to buy, the salesman shows up. Do you understand? If the customer wants to buy, the salesman will show up and sell. Who doesn't want to make his wife happy? Obviously. So that's very important. Let him in. Sometimes we don't let him in. That's what the issue is today. It's the social media, power, femininity, etc. Everybody's single. Wonderful. It's a leftist movement. It's not a movement based on Torah. It's not a movement based on Torah. This movement that's happening today has nothing to do with Torah values or anything to do with godliness. Just understand that. You have to be careful who you listen to. Yes. Right. Okay, what's the difference between self-confidence and arrogance? So arrogance means, you would say humility or self-esteem or arrogance? Okay, arrogance means a person's very self-centered. When a person is arrogant, he's making everything about him. Like any comment that people said, for example, that person insulted me, that person spoke about me, that person did, everything's about you. When you have humility and self-esteem, you stop thinking of yourself so much. For example, let's say somebody yelled at you today, right? A humble person would say, hey, that person is in a bad mood. A person with low self-esteem that says, why are they looking at me this way? Why are they talking to me this way? So basically, humility is not being self-centered, not making everything about you, not making everybody's energies about you. If that makes sense. It's being less self-centered. That's the majority of the key. Yes, we'll take some of the guys. Yes. How are you happy with external validation? Without external validation. It's called giving. You're meant to grow and you're meant to give and connect. When you grow, you get dopamine. You give, you get serotonin. When you connect, you get oxytocin. That's how you become happy. Growing, giving, and connecting. Growing, giving, connection. Anytime you're waiting on external validation, you're living from the outside in instead of the inside out. Anybody upstairs have questions or no? Okay, yes, I'm sorry. My pleasure. Thank you. Yes. Right. How do you know that they're real? Again, you're going to have to see that in the process. When things get rough in life, that's how you know when things are real. Things are great, but when things get rough in life, that's how you know. The book, The Surrendered Wife by Laura Doyle. It's going to teach you what the book by Laura Doyle is pretty much the equivalent of Garden of Peace, okay? For women. What that's going to teach you, instead of you're going to use more power than force. Does that make sense? You're going to use your power of your masculinity to get the guys to do what you want versus forcing them, criticizing them, and berating them, which doesn't work. So you're going to use a different approach, which is confidence, which is power versus force. And you could tell any guy the same thing. Just be nice. I'll give you everything. That's it. But the way you say it could destroy the guys because they're meant to be needed. They're meant to be needed. It's extremely important. I can't tell you how many times I tell people, your problem, you're way too masculine. Too masculine. You got to back off. Right. How to not be picky. Again, you have to first make sure that your pickiness is not coming from social media. Do you understand? The problem with social media today is there's an unrealistic standard. You're watching people's highlights. You're not watching the times they get hit with coconuts. So you're comparing yourself to something that doesn't even exist. So your pickiness is coming a lot from seeing people on the Maldives or Amalfi Coast, and it's not coming from a pure place. It's coming from a place of dimyon, imagination. So first you got to get out of the imagination movie. And the reality is you build together. The person has to have certain things, but perfection does not exist. And remember, they will change anyway. You just have to make sure you have a guy that works hard, that is confident. You have to make sure he doesn't have, any kind of, sexual issues and drugs. These are the things. But if they're strong and hard working, let them in. Remember, a woman can empower a guy. A woman can empower a guy to be great. The Zohar says that, again, don't marry the trophy wife. Marry the wife that'll help you get the trophy. That's what we have to focus on. Yes. Go ahead. Yes. How do you maintain and trust? Sure. It's called prayer. Prayer. Remember, guys, this is what happens. In life, we normally get married, we get comfortable. We don't show up like the first date. So as we can become more comfortable, we become not as aggressively, pursuing on our A game. And then what happens when we get comfortable? Things get a little out of line. They say bad times lead to good times. And good times could lead to bad times. So sometimes the good times are leading to bad times. So don't get comfortable in the relationship. Or Moroccans will keep you on your toes. Keep you on your toes. But always stay fresh. You have to always stay fresh in the relationship. Both husband and wife. Too many times you get married and people let themselves go. Where are you going to? Just because you got married doesn't mean that's it. Keep yourself fresh. When you're single, you're on your A game. You have to be on your A game also when you're married. Not because you're just this. Yes? Right, that's a big question. But sometimes you have to move because if he's a provider, that's where his business is. So sometimes that is a calling that's needed. As long as he's providing, yes. As long as he's taking the leadership role and being a provider and nurturing you and providing, yes, that's his role. Right, that's a whole different question. That's an Oprah question. That's an Oprah question. It's a question you have to ask God, but I don't have the answer to that question. It's a loaded question. But you're right, there's always going to be something. Right, I understand your question. But generally, if the guy's taking the responsibility to provide, then usually she could follow him. Yes. We'll take a few more. Is narcissism in a relationship curable? Again, sometimes everybody's a doctor today. You understand? He's a narcissist, he's bipolar, make sure you got the diagnosis first. Okay. But usually the diagnosis is off. Most people are diagnosing people like they've been in medical school for 10 years. Okay. He had a bad day, he's a manic depressant. He had a bad day. What do you want me to tell you? It's not a manic depressant. Don't create labels. If doctors misdiagnose people, how much more are you going to diagnose people? Okay? If doctors, the third biggest death in the country is medical malpractice. Everything is curable. Everything is curable. Everything is curable. Yes. I'm sorry? That God is answering you? Sometimes you get hints. Sometimes you get clarity. Clarity, I would say, is the best answer. When you are clear on what you want. What a waste to wait. Did you ever drive with the rain? Pretend there's no rain. That's clear. When you have awareness, when you have clarity in life, that is God's answering. Any kind of shefa that we want is a shefa of clarity. Shefa of clarity. We'll take a few more questions and we'll go. Yes. Okay, go ahead. How do you break it? Don't answer the phone. What am I tell you? Don't answer the phone. Change the number. Again, God will send, if the male is doing his role and he's being responsible, you will feel that connection. You will feel charm and charisma. But if the guy he doesn't have that charisma, he doesn't have that charm, that means God is causing a blockage. That could be a way. Yes, many times God will cause block. There's another issue. Shh. Now, what happens? Let's say that you do have the right one. Let's say you do have the right one, and then all of a sudden you test drive the car too much. That could cause a problem too. So, for example, if you buy a car, you either buy the car, but you can't test drive the car for 60 days, because otherwise every dealer would be out of business. So sometimes being too physical before you get married causes klipot. We'll take a good relationship and will cause problems in the relationship. Doesn't mean that the person is not the right one. It means there was too much physicality in that relationship premature. So that's another issue. So let's say things were really, really good in the beginning, and then you got physical and things turned really, really bad. It's because of the physicality. So you should fix that and then go back to the beginning. Many times that's happened. So we have to be careful to not get too physical in the relationship. This is what Rabbi Nachman says: when you get too physical, it creates a klipa. What does a klipa do? The purpose of what a klipa does is it doesn't allow you to have sensitivity towards getting married. And remember, guys, people want what they can't have. If you make yourself too available, it's no longer available anymore. So also when you're dating, don't give out your whole social security number, IRS record, do you understand? Keep a little privacy. Sometimes we're too open. You give the guy your everything. Slow down. Slow down. What does this mean? In order for the light to be maintained, it needs a contraction. So you always need to have suspense in the relationship. If you have no suspense in the relationship will flatten out. So you need to, Kabbalah, it's called the contraction of light. Contraction of light. So go out, but don't tell everything. Keep a little bit of suspense in order that there should be more suspense. But if everything's already laid out in the first date, well, you lose the suspense of it. There's another thing I need to, you reminded me another thing too, it's important. According to the Baal Shem Tov, he tells us that we originally get inspiration from above. That means, let's say you like somebody and you started dating them and things were really, really good. Let's say you're dating somebody and things are really, really good in the beginning. 3-4 good dates. 3-4 good dates, right? And all of a sudden, the energy faded. The energy faded. What does that mean? What that means is that person was given to you, but you originally received the light from above. Now the light is taken away from you, and now you have to work on it. Just like going to the candy store. You want to have one chocolate? It's on the store. But you can't sample every store. One sample, and now you got to pay. So Kabbalistically, when you're dating, and the first 3 days are good, and all of a sudden there's a flat line, I don't feel the spark, you have to create the spark now. Before, they gave you the spark. Now you have to go create the spark. So that's a very common thing that people expect to be, where's the spark? Where did it go? Yeah, before it was given to you for free. Because if it was not given to you for free, you would never gone on 3 dates. Very important concept to understand. Don't just because it's 3-4 dates, it's going, you don't see the spark, now you have to work for it. Now you have to work for it. Very important. I've seen many people have failed on this one. They said the spark is gone. Go build it. Go build the spark again. Yes. Yes, you. Louder. Right. How do you fix your self-esteem, right? The way you fix your self-esteem is, a lot of your self-esteem is rooted in failure, right? And what happens, instead of taking the failures, imagine these were your failures, right? You put them on your head. This is how you walk around. You should take all your failures and put them under your feet. Climb on them. Learn from them. So low self-esteem is something very simple. Is you took the failures personally instead of learning from the failures. That's it. Take the failures and elevate the failures. Learn from them, not saying I'm a failure. And that is the root of low self-esteem. And if you don't fix low self-esteem, then you're going to blame your partner for every problem. So that's very important to fix that area in your life, etc., etc. Yes? One you got. I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Right. Basically, the purpose of his bodhidut is so you have a set time to talk to God about your issues. There's a concept in life that's called desire breaks obstacles. Okay? So if I have desire, when I'm talking about something, I'm developing my desire. My desire is what's going to break the obstacle. So when you're speaking to God 30 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day, you're developing desire. And that desire itself will break the obstacle you're going through. So it should be at a set time and a set place. I have many classes on this. But the most important part is not even the fact that you're saying, what you're saying is the fact that you're building desire to want to connect. You understand? The desire is the greatest thing. They don't judge you for your results. They desire for how bad you want it. How bad you want it. Go ahead. Feel guilt and take a cold shower. I'm just kidding. No, obviously. You should never feel... First of all, we're too stuck on religion without spirituality. Okay? You can't be religious without spirituality. If you're religious without spirituality, that's called misery. Anytime you have religion without spirituality, you're always judging yourself badly. God, anytime you do teshuvah, is above space and time. You could take an action tomorrow, and you could fix the whole past. You could do one positive action tomorrow, and you could fix your whole past. So there's no concept of despair. It's actually the future can fix the past. So you should never despair. You should be embarrassed. So what happens if you're embarrassed? Embarrassment cleanses sin. You should never feel guilt or shame. You should be embarrassed that you could have done better. But embarrassment is what cleanses sin. Okay? I hope I made myself clear. Yes. Yes. You're not, remember, we're not focusing on the one. We're focusing on becoming the one. Do you understand? The problem is not outside. The problem is inside. Become the one. Get into your masculine energy. Get into your feminine energy. Get into your feminine energy. Be happy. Walk around with a smile, and there'll be 10 guys that want to marry you. Walk around with a frown, nobody wants to get married to you. You have to become the one. It's usually about becoming the one, doing the inner work, desiring the inner work to want to give. You understand? That is really the work. The inner work is where you're going to get the most out of life, etc. Yes. Yoni, what's up? Where did I get it from? I would say I got it from anytime I ask myself, what happens if I don't have discipline? What's the price for that? So I always have leverage. Do you understand? So for example, if I knew I didn't have discipline by getting married, I'm going to end up becoming lost in Miami in some crazy hotel in the wrong place in the wrong time. So I realized that I'd rather put the discipline into fighting pain versus pleasure. Does that make sense? Put the discipline in the right place, not in the wrong place. Okay? For example, if you ask somebody, how do you have discipline not to eat sugar if you have diabetes? You could say you're going to lose your leg. Is that enough leverage? Is the cheesecake worth the leg? So you have to associate enough pain to not being disciplined. So how old are you? How old? 20? 20? Okay, you're young. Give me an older guy. Let's say a guy's 30. He says, you know what? I'm not into this Muna stuff, this Shmirat Brit. I want to hang out for another 10 years. So you have to ask yourself, how does 40 look like being single? How does 45 look like being single? How does the loneliness look like being single? So once you start saying, wow, that could be a lot of loneliness, I better take some action right now. Because this is no longer pleasure. This is loneliness. So the loneliness will make you take massive action to say, I need to fix this. So sometimes you need to associate enough pain to get you focused on what you need to do. Yes. We both have both of them. We both have masculine and feminine traits. But in general, is again, when you become like the circle in the circle, when you become too into the process and not into the presence, then you're missing the feminine aspect of you. You understand? When you're too much into goals and not into family and not into building and just about you, then you're too much into your masculine energy. Not really. That means they're in their roles. That should be the worst problem we have, to be too masculine or too feminine. It's not really. No, that's really doing your role. What do you do if a guy is super happy? It should be the biggest problem if the guy's super happy, no? It's not, that's what we need to do. It's only when there's an imbalance in that is the problem. Yes. I'm sorry? Well, how do you know if you're living in the present moment? Right. So there's certain tools that we could do to live in the present moment. When you're grateful, you're in the present moment. Okay? When you have faith, anytime you're in good energy, anything you're thinking positive, you're in the present moment. Anytime you have negative thoughts, they're coming from your subconscious. So happiness, right. So when you're negative, it's teaching you're thinking about something in the past. You're not in the present moment. You're negative. Anytime we have a negative thought, it's not coming from right now. It's coming from something in the past. So that's how you know the difference. If it's a positive thought, if it's a positive state, for example, if I'm angry right now, I'm not in the present moment. I'm holding on to something that happened 2 weeks ago or a week ago. If I'm happy right now, I've let go of that. So happiness and positive states means you're in the present moment. That means you're not in survival anymore. Survival means you're in the past. When you're in expansion, that means you're in the future, you're in the present moment, etc., etc. Okay, we'll take 5-10 more questions and we're good. Okay, who else? Yes, go ahead. Please. Right, so that's a problem. Is this a confession? Okay, I just want to know. So that's your sign. Again, you can always give. Anybody can, but the way he's saying it is not good. What are you bringing to the table? Yeah, that's a little Bukharian, I think. It's a little old school. No? I'm just kidding. Go ahead. Right, so that you are with receivers. You're not with a giver. You're with a receiver. So that's not the guy for you. Yes. Okay, right. Imagination could work positive or negatively. Catastrophe is negative imagination. Manifesting is positive imagination. So when you're able to manifest something on the positive end, that means you've already cleared a lot of negative beliefs. That's a good sign. If the imagination is bringing you to catastrophe, that means it's fear-based. It's fear-based. By the way, we're speaking tomorrow in Park East, completely different topic on Rosh Hashanah tomorrow. That's going to be tomorrow night in Park East Synagogue. Park East Synagogue. Yes. Okay. As far as Reb Nachman's advice for guys, it's Shmirat Brit. That is the first place you got to go to. That is the Yesod. That is the one thing that connects you to God, or that's the one thing that disconnects you to God. Work on that first. Get to that, everything else will open up for you. That is the opening for everything. That is the customs ticket to get the passport to go anywhere you want. But if you can't get your passport, you can't go anywhere. Work on that. If you want to say something else, I would say faith. But work on that one. That one is the gorilla in the room. That was in the gorilla in the room. Yes. Yes. You should give charity in their name. Second, you should give charity in the name, and you should read Shira Shirim. Shira Shirim before dawn. Before dawn, just wake up before dawn. Shira Shirim is a segula for your kids. For them to have to find somebody. That's a segula from Rabbi Nachman Fege. Yes. Right, there's times where you could just be silent itself. Rabbi Nachman said that his bodedut is very good. Just sitting yourself in a room and speaking, it's extra good. So the fact that you're taking time just to sit someplace is good. Speaking is very, very good. You get it? So just sitting, because sometimes you can't speak. Sometimes you need to prepare the speech. Okay. To break the silence, I do a cold plunge to break the silence. Put on music. I like music usually breaks the silence. Or scream. Okay, I think we're good. 2 more questions and we're good. Okay, go ahead. One more question. Go ahead. Last one. Last one. Thank you. I really enjoyed. Prayer. Anyway, God, everybody should bless everybody. Hashem should bless us with all a good year. And there should be a lot of chuppahs here. And you should stay married. Not just get married, stay married. God bless everybody.